Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. My name is Ricky, and today we actually have a guest commentator on with us. You know him from the podcast Corpdraw. Please welcome
Jason.
And yeah, we're going to actually roll into our next game here in the Elimination. On the left, we have Hollis Eacho once again. And on the right, we have Senor Pacer, a very, very excellent player that ended up winning the store championship. That we played in a couple weeks before that. He's running about the same. He's running a couple of different decks actually. He played like Noise and RP last time. It looks like he's running Gabe right now.
Yeah, I think Gabe is really strong still in the metagame. I still think we're still seeing the fallout of the fast advance until we see the cards that will be specifically attacking them. We will still see it, and because of that, Gabe will always be prevalent. Plus, with the criminal card suite, you really can't go wrong.
Definitely. I think Gabe kind of fell to the wayside once Andromeda hit, but people kind of started paying more attention to Gabe, especially like players like Timmy Wong out in California where you guys live. He rocked Gabe at Worlds, and man, he shook things up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a discipline rather than the ease of use that Andromeda is going to give you. A lot of people, running without a rig, it's very common in criminal, being able to attack, but you still need to make sure that you're able to pull cards out of your deck and at a reasonable pace. Maybe trying to hit different timings and things like that, because Andromeda, you're going to get those cards to start with. So with Gabe, you just need to be disciplined enough to be able to make sure your deck is working for you and you're able to use all the cards and you don't get stuck just kind of gaining money and running and gaining money if it's not being very efficient.
Right. And another big thing with Gabe is that I guess recently there's been a surge of a necessity for a large amount of money, especially versus RP and the quickness of the money as well versus NEH, where you need to go start trashing some pad campaigns, some sands and everything else. So reliability is one thing that you get with Andromeda, but Gabe really just kind of he's able to not fall by the wayside economically. Both runners in the criminal faction are extremely good with money, so I guess it's just up to your personal taste.
Yeah, and talking about that consistency, we see Hollis open with the Ice Baby or the hedge fund to counter it off. Not only is it a very awesome start to increase what should be a very successful opening for him, but RP going to be a very consistent deck because it does not give up the agendas easily.
Absolutely not. I mean, you're no stranger to RP yourself. What are some of the things that really kind of define a good opening for you? Like, what's the best RP opening that you can think of?
Well, I mean, I think that what you saw right there is very good. As a criminal player, it depends. If you have any knowledge prior to the style of RP, because as we see more cards come out, we do see a larger and larger diversification of what we would call the standard RP, probably played by Dan at Worlds this year, and we have a lot more things coming out. So we will be able to see what Hollis is doing here. If you have checked out the previous videos, you'll have a glimpse into what he might be packing. But if you're sitting across the table from him and you're not familiar, you may not know exactly what's going to hit you.
Exactly. So it looks like Pacer starts off pretty strong against Hollis's strong opening and ends up taking a Nisei on an R&D run with a pup in front of it. Man, pup pup is pretty awesome. It's a 1 res cost and it's attacks of 2. Sometimes people end up just taking the net damage through pup, but it's one big detriment is just doesn't have that in the run, but it's straight for taxing, and it looks like he just put out whatever he could at the starting just to kind of maybe bluff it.
Yeah, absolutely. He might have been stuck with a large piece of ice or one that he didn't want to commit early. I don't think that the pup play is poor. No. If you're going to be running 2 to 3 Nisei Mark IIs in your deck, and that's one of the ones you just hate to see go, but that does happen, and you've got to try to play it out as slow and as methodically as you can.
Absolutely. It's definitely one thing to have that first Nisei gone and stolen, but it's a completely different story if the first Nisei is scored by the Corp. It's a scary thing. 2 Niseis, even scarier.
Yeah, 2 Niseis is pretty much the game. One thing I would like to note is the amount of money that we have our criminal player gaining. He does not yet have the Desperado online, but with dirty laundry, security testing, and an open archives, you're going to see him gaining a lot here. And I think it's something that I would like to see Hollis respond to, but he doesn't seem to want to do that.
Right. Pacer checks R&D and sees a piece of ice that we'll see if Hollis installs it. But one of the major things about Gabe is that he's always infamously run Sneak Door Beta. Well, most versions do anyway. And but one of the aspects about RP in general is that they like to cover up all the essentials, so that way they can't get into the remote before having to run a central that's not too taxing, or that is taxing first. So let's see if he can get some of those HQ credits quite easily before they start becoming more difficult.
Yeah, and you've got to assume that the protection over HQ is going to be a Caprice playing into Account Siphon is one of the better Account Siphon counters to date. And one thing I would like to note, although the sleeves are quite glossy for the Snare Fantasy Flight sleeves, oh, yeah. I do believe we saw the Merlin, which is kind of what I was hinting at talking about previous videos. Yes. So we do believe we're going to be seeing a Grail RP suite.
Yes. Let's see how much of a Grail RP suite he's put in. I know a lot of people put 3x of pretty much Lancelot, Galahad, and Merlin, but some people throw in Excalibur too. But telling from the other videos, we pretty much know that it's the standard build.
Excalibur, really fantastic in RP. As a matter of fact, I don't play Grail, and I do play 1 to 2 Excaliburs in my deck currently. Late game, the most unassuming piece of ice, you toss it out. You know that they want to abuse a certain server. You can really work with that Excalibur. If they don't have a way to break it, it can be game.
Absolutely. I've thrown in Excalibur in a couple of decks, including standard Astro Near Earth Hub. I like to throw it up in R&D, kind of stop that spam of indexing and whatnot from shapers, and occasionally, unless they have Parasite, which most Kates do, occasionally you'll run into something that doesn't really have something that can deal with it too quickly, or something that can deal with it, but it's it demands that they go pay for something they didn't really want to in the first place. But it's an interesting piece of ice, and if you can slap that subroutine on the not end the run subroutine, you can slap the don't run anymore subroutine on top of whatever they're hitting, then that's even better.
If my eyes do not deceive me, I actually think that Hollis has it. I know he has at least 2 agendas in his hand, if not 3. I believe there are 2 NAPDs and a Future Perfect in his hand from his shuffle. It is definitely a troublesome situation, and you kind of see why he's playing the way he is, but he does have a lot of money. He's going to hit the Merlin. Let's see what he shows. We know that he has at least 2 agendas.
Yeah. One of the things is that, Merlin it's pretty strong. It's 4 strength. Yogg's not going to break it. Luckily, Pacer has a Gordian Blade out. The only detriment here is that he doesn't really have too much money to deal with it. It's pretty taxing. Most Grail suites are just generally taxing.
Yeah, and especially for Gordian Blade, Hollis is hoping for it to cost 5 later in the game. This is definitely a situation that he feels comfortable in. He knows it's not going to be able to get him too much until he sees an additional source of R&D pressure, whether it be a Maker's Eye out of hand or an R&D interface on the table or a medium.
Right.
He's going to feel pretty confident by saying, you know what, I'm playing RP, I'm playing 9 to 10 agendas, and it's going to be very frustrating. Most likely only 9.
Right. I've recently been playing RP with the Grail suite myself, and I think one of the biggest things is just kind of not... The problem is not finding the first piece of Grail ice, it's finding the second and the third so that you can actually install something and then have the subroutines added to it. One subroutine is not going to be too much of a detriment, but, once you add those second and thirds, that's when it really matters.
All right, so we're going to see him try to gain some money here, and he's going to lay out a lot of cards.
Yep.
I don't want to be too specific of what he's hoping, but if we did think that he possibly had more agendas in his hand previously, we could see him dumping them into the trash. And right. We have that live Jackson Howard, which it's been sitting out for a long time, quite surprising.
It has. I actually asked Hollis the other day, I was like, hey, do you have any tips for this? What is there a hand that you would not celebrity gift? And his response is little to none. The thing about RP is that, it's you can show them what's in your hand, and it's just so difficult. That could be a Caprice covering HQ, and then Oh, wow, it actually does turn out to be Komainu and Caprice. So, yeah, he's going to take a couple stabs to steal those agendas, but, man, even if he gets to them, they're either A, going to be expensive, or B, he's not going to be able to get through Caprice and through the Future Perfect. But Pacer's going to try here.
Yeah, this is going to be really frustrating here, dealing with a Caprice Nisei. We'll see how it goes. It actually can work both ways. It's the opening side game, and it seems like they gamble the same.
Yep. He put a die out, and then he put a credit, so they both bet one.
They're commenting here about
they were
how it bets, but this is really big for Gabe, because being able to penetrate the first Caprice you see, it can really lead to actually frustration on the Corp side if you are able to lose those, that really low percentage chance that it's going to actually be broken. If you can lose a couple of those in a row, it can put you on tilt.
Absolutely. Luckily he's got the Sundew out and everything. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've ever kind of heard about playing RP is that a lot of people don't like to leave that first Sundew naked like that. They want to cover it with some sort of piece of ice, but I think Hollis has really kind of put priority on just covering all the centrals first.
Yeah, and I think that if there's ever a time to put the Sundew out naked into Criminal, it's when you know that there is zero Desperado.
Right.
When you are not worried about them minimizing their loss with that Desperado, it actually feels pretty good to have the Sundew out. Because worst case scenario, it's going to be a lot of investment from them, and it's still going to win for you because it's a zero. Its only investment is the click to draw and the click to play.
Right. That's an excellent point. He's got the security testing out and everything, but it's not going to be netting him too many credits without the Desperado. And unfortunately, Pacer looks like he's gone over and trashed the Sundew, which is exactly the detriment to not covering it first. But that's all right. You deal with what comes up, and hopefully we'll be able to recover with a couple more Sundews, which always seems to happen.
Yeah, and I really like what Pacer did here. He was able to get the account siphon off after he knew the Caprice would be gone. Very effective use of that. As we mentioned, Caprice, a nightmare for account siphon. So when he has that door cleared, especially because he saw an interns earlier, this is going to be the best time to possibly do that.
Right.
I also want to mention and go back to something that you said, and I think I although I don't have the personal experience, I do believe there is a particular caveat to the celebrity gift play, and that's in a deck like this, it might be intelligent to not do it when they can estimate how many potential Grail pieces you have in your hand.
True.
So I definitely, if I'm celebrity gifting, I might be tossing a Jackson double draw out afterwards to kind of refill my hand and give the potential to have those additional Grail pieces in the hand.
Right. The the double-sided coin to that, I guess I would say, is just you're showing them the Grail pieces, you're showing them what they have to be ready for, and at the same time, if they're not ready for it, there's no way they can search for it. It really might actually hold them off. But
certainly, but I definitely would, before exposing the first Grail, you definitely don't want to have that kind of exposure.
Definitely. Pacer is able to get out a Mimic, which is a very important breaker at this time. Some people at the time were running Switchblade and the Stealth Suite, which is just still extremely strong. Just a quick note that this was before Ordering Chaos, and the last legal set was the Source. So it's just before Ordering Chaos hit. People were kind of in limbo as far as what to play before these new cards come out, and Mimic Mimic is still very strong, and especially versus RP, where you just put it down and pay for Komainus and Sarugis and whatnot.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see the differences in the decks. But I do want to point out we have him going right into the hand multiple times, using that money, and he does end up getting the second side game and forcing Hollis, who's actually kind of low on credits, in the overall scheme of things, to spend $2 and then lose $2 and the 3 points, putting him, putting the Gabe player at 5.
Right, man, it's already 5-0. It's not looking too great, but anything can happen. This is Netrunner.
It's true, and I think that this is very important here for Hollis to take a second and collect himself, because we all know that this is a mental game. Losing 5 points and 2 side games. Yeah. He's had 0 wins. He also forced himself to have to celebrity gift into showing no Grail Ice, revealing that, hey, this isn't too bad. He hasn't had the time to get rid of the security testing with the tags that are still being floated, which is definitely something that I would do. And he's playing on the back foot. But as you said, it's Netrunner, and additionally it's RP. This is a deck that can come back. All you need is something like an ELP to hit the table, and it can really slow the corporation or the runner down.
Right, absolutely, and I really like Hollis's response here. Is he plays the interns to get back the Caprice out. One option is to kind of maybe wait for ice to show up, but that might be the wrong play here. You never know what's going to come up. You might even get even more flooded. So he decides to not take the risk and just go ahead and pay for not pay for interns, but go ahead and get Caprice back out, pay for it in case he decides to run. And it looks like it did a lot of work. It kept him out.
Yeah, but see, what I want to note is this. Pacer did not pay. He only paid $1 for all these runs. He is not. He doesn't have any cards in his hand, so Komainu is free. So yeah. I think he could have just taxed him, running 4 times, forcing him to spend $4. He's very, very poor economically, and it's going to be tough. But now, as you see, if he would have done that, we wouldn't have seen this hedge fund come down. Oh, yeah. Now Hollis feeling really comfortable, even installs another piece of ice over the top.
Yep,
this could do a lot.
Really great playing by Hollis over here, bouncing back, keeping cool under pressure. Where after big hit with the count siphon and a couple of back-to-back runs on HQ, it looks like he's covered up all the centrals. Now it's just all that's left is start building that remote, start scoring, man, get him out.
Now, this is really confident play from Pacer. I think he's doing the wrong thing by being so reckless. I mean, it could take any sort of small trick that Hollis may or may not have in his deck to force this loss here.
Right.
And, he only has $7. He only has those breakers. If he hit something like a Galahad and he had a Merlin in his hand, that would be game because he has no cards in hand.
Right. I think one of the biggest things about playing RP is that people may be in this position where they steal a couple of agendas off the bat and things seem pretty dire for the Corp. They start maybe getting a little too comfortable, and that mid game is definitely a large thing, especially after the RP is already set up their basics, and it doesn't take much for them to bounce back economically wise. So for one thing, you're 5 up. Next thing you know, it's over, and you just because you weren't able to keep up economically.
Yeah, like I said, though, I really disapprove of running without a hand here. All it would take is, like you said, when there's Grail, and it only costs $2 to res a Galahad.
Oh, yeah. And hey, Galahad and another Merlin hand, game over.
It's not even that, right? It could be like, what if you drew into 2 Lancelots and then you just lost your whole rig? It's not like Gabe's going to be running a lot of recursion. You have a Gordian Blade, which is 3 influence in. Sherry's got a Rex down, but that's only going to be 4 potential runs. And if he does get a Merlin up with 3 subroutines, it's going to cost 2 tokens to get rid of that.
Lancelot, actually, I think can be broken with Mimic.
No, but if he has Lancelot's in hand with a Galahad on table.
Oh, of course. But yeah, he's definitely got to keep track of the credits that he has, and having that pad just in case something like that happens. You never know. And I know a lot of the criminal builds at this time didn't run too much recursion, so you face check something that's going to make you trash some of your rig. It's gonna hurt,
especially when you know that it's a possibility. But he's going to continue to do it. It doesn't seem to be hurting him too much at the moment. He's really hoping he can get in here. He has gotten down to 2 credits.
Oh, man, yeah, look at that. Caprice bets, they're always something of large debate in the Netrunner community. What do you think about the mechanic in general?
Yeah, I see it up all the time on things like the different forums and the Facebook as well. I think that it's interesting. It's a very, it's a very swingy system. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst. I definitely think it's frustrating. But of course, in the same vein, it is not reliable. So I think that is something that you see in a lot of games. Most people prefer reliability. But it does have such a large corp edge. It's not like a 50-50.
Right. It's definitely not like a steel wall or anything like that. I think it adds a dimension to the game that frustrates most. But then I think at the same time, there's also those people that look at it as an opportunity maybe and say, hey, I like this. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to try to maybe, play with it as much as possible to kind of gain some inside knowledge to when I'm running against it. Right? Like, what would I do? If I was Hollis, what would I bet here? I don't know. But then
Yeah,
there's also a lot of tells too, right? There's the money count. There's what's out in the field at the moment. Is he going to try to score some things soon? You never know.
And sure, this is great, but once again, it's Gabe. There could be a sneak door at any moment. And this is what I was talking about. He wants to go through that Komainu so bad that he is just not drawing. He's staying very stale.
Mm-hmm.
He has a total of 5 cards in play.
Yeah.
And still not being able to make it through. It's while it's taxing, that pup is going to get the better of him.
Right. And I mean, imagine all these runs with Desperado. Golly, all that money just kind of not.
Well, you don't get through the Caprice though.
Right. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry.
But still, you're right though. All those other runs he could have been making earlier, all that pressure he had on Hollis is now gone. Gabe is left with no money, 2 tags, 5 pieces out. If I'm Hollis and I can gain some money, I'm looking to put some pressure on. And once again, he needs to be intelligent. Getting rid of the same old thing, getting rid of the security testing, this would be a really, really good time to do that.
Right. Yeah, so he's gaining 2, and, just kind of maybe get some money back up, start making some moves. I approve.
Yeah, and the one thing that you gotta love when you play RP is the frustration that you get with your agenda suite. That is really the main reason why people are playing it, especially in conjunction with the identity itself. But he can't afford to give up free NAPDs, though, although they can protect themselves from this really poor Gabe.
Right. I don't think it happens too often, but at the moment, that might be the ideal agenda to kind of put down, right? Anise is always fantastic. It's going to help you score a couple of other agendas along the way, but if in this case, getting that secure NAPD down, making sure that he won't be able to get in with such a low credit count for the moment anyway. And now that ELP's back is now on the board, that's going to be a whole other aspect to the game.
Yeah, and Hollis is really looking to make his mark here. I still believe that you got to get rid of that security testing, though.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I wonder if he even just kind of remembers.
It's been such a long time.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to mention too is that that top deck of the Diesel was really humongous because at the time when he drew it, he had no money, and he was able to pick up 3 more cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No more free Komainu runs unless he wants to trash them. But man, there's a couple of fairies in there, in the discard pile. It is. But it looks like Hollis is setting up his remote finally, and hopefully he'll be able to start putting some points on the board.
And you've got to wonder here, what is the influence that we see coming out of Gabe? We've got a total of 6 influence just on that we can see in this picture, which has the Mimic, the Gordian Blade, and the Diesel.
Mm-hmm.
We're wondering, where's the multi-access coming? Is Merlin feeling really good? We also don't know really. We see a couple pieces of ice there in Hollis's hand, but we don't know exactly what they are. This is going to be a really frustrating time for Gabe to try to operate. Once again, he's floating those same old things. I just wish we could get rid of those.
So he's keeping track of his tag count with the other larger red dice there, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it seems to be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, it's red playmats. Who knows? There's so many times, so many games I've kind of even seen where there's literally tags sitting on the ID and just kind of, it's the environment. This is the elimination round. Sometimes players make small mistakes like that.
Indeed, yeah. It's there's a lot of pressure, and especially for Hollis because he's sitting here, looking at these 5 points that his opponent has scored. However, he's going to shuffle some money back in the deck.
Triple hedge fund.
He's going to hope that it's going to be good. If I would really like to see if he could find a way to get into that archives. I feel like right now it's not. It could have agendas. That's what I'm thinking if I'm Spacer.
Even after the Jackson, you think?
Yeah, even after the Jackson, I think it's definitely possible because I think that Hollis is just kind of trying to trick him and maybe tries to get him to say, hey, if you want to run somewhere else, you can run with this pup. Right. It's definitely a window that Hollis may try to take.
That's definitely an interesting kind of bluff that he'd be able to pull off. Although I got to think, man, like celebrity gifts. Triple hedge funds. It's not bad.
Gifts.
Yeah, the gifts. The gifts just keep on giving. Maybe his hand just isn't worth showing at the moment. And that's another key aspect here too, is that the elements of surprise if you will. Hedge funds getting out that money that he needs desperately. Even though he has a good bit at the moment, he's going to need a lot to carry him through this game if he's going to pull out the victory. Man, that ELP. Sometimes you don't see it now, actually. There's just no influence left, especially in the Grail suite. You used to be able to pull off 2 ELPs in the deck list, and now it's just kind of, you have to choose what you kind of want to do. But
see, and then that comfort that you have as a criminal player, you're going to take this, you're going to be very lax about it. You're going to use your security testings. You're not going to go check over there. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Remember, he had two NAPDs at one point. And they didn't get shuffled back into his deck just now.
Ah, true. I guess a big thing here to consider is that the security testings are really trying to make, he's going to have to spend 2 clicks to run 1 in the first place. And it looks like he does do that and runs Archives and hits Merlin.
Wow, this is a monster card right here. He can only break 2 subroutines. If he has 2 in his hand, he can force him to do 1 of the 3 subroutines.
Ah, gotcha. It doesn't look like there's anything there. Yeah, it's security testing run, so he's not going to see anything, but it does look like he just had the 1 subroutine on Merlin, nothing to show out of his hand, unfortunately. And he's going to go ahead and run the other security testing on the other side, and it's another Jackson. So here's that opportunity. I think he felt safe with the second Jackson in hand, saying, hey, I'm going to pull back some hedge funds. I'm going to maybe bluff you out a little bit and make you not want to run Archives outright instead of just doing a standard security testing run and not access the cards. So, yeah, not bad. Not bad. So now he's going to put back whatever was down there, whether they were NAPDs or whatnot, and have a fresh start, basically.
Yeah, I think that this is getting really frustrating for the Gabe player. He's got a purely run-based economy. If I'm Hollis and I draw into a hedge fund, I get rid of both of those security testings. But once again, as you said, he may not know.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a handful of ice.
Handful of ice sounds fantastic right now. And that's another thing too. It's you're paying for the Grail ice, right? You're paying for ELP. You're paying for, I don't know if he's, there's DBS as well. And then I think I saw an Ash earlier. That's a lot of influence, if not all of it. He might have cut down his influence on the Grail, maybe not running 3x of all of them. But we'll see. If he doesn't have the Ash, then that Caprice on HQ has to go, and that's a vulnerability, right?
Okay, he's getting a sure gamble out with the same old thing. That is desperation right there.
I'd say.
But once again, I mean, keeping that money down from Hollis, it's really frustrating. Once again, if he would have gotten rid of those 2 security testings, Gabe would be in the middle of nowhere.
Right. I mean, geez, again. Oh, there, finally, Desperado. I was just about to make a comment about that. I guess that's one thing that Andy really does trump most of the time, is that she's able to guarantee a good hand, which usually includes Desperado at the get-go.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When you're a Gabe player, you have to have the discipline to run. He spent about 4 turns Komai Inu running.
Right.
Sure, he got an agenda. Sure, it was 3 points, but he got that on the first one. It could have been greedy. He could have sat back and said, you know what, I'm going to get an awesome economy, I'm going to get a full suite of breakers out, and then I'm going to really put pressure on my opponent whenever he tries to do anything, because you do know for a fact that RP cannot score out of hand.
Right.
Or at least 7 points out of hand. Maybe they splashed a few tricks, but it's unlikely they'll have enough.
No. But now it looks like his Grail suite is fully online. He's putting all 3 subroutines on each one when he hits it, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot.
It looks like Lancelot Merlin.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's got to break it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But man, that basically just counteracts the security testing on Archives, essentially.
He's gonna drop his whole hand. And look, he pitches a special order without a barrier breaker.
Wow.
I want to see a barrier a really punishing barrier. This is where like things like Wall of Thorns, like I play Wall of Thorns. I don't know if Hollis does. I think that card is absolutely fantastic in the current meta because Corroder is still the crutch of all barriers.
Absolutely. I know Hollis is a big fan of Wall of Thorns. He's gone through several iterations of this deck, man. We played with this deck since even before Worlds, and he did very excellent in several tournaments, including Worlds, with several iterations of this deck, and Wall of Thorns has come in and out, Toll Booths come in and out, and whatnot. But definitely learned a lot by watching and playing with him. Let's see. I wonder if it would be a good idea to kind of maybe start poking and prodding, hit maybe like the pup, and just kind of, if you can start getting your econ back up, just get rid of whatever's in that remote, right? Like whether
I'm very intrigued to see what's in the remote.
Mm-hmm. Again, the econ is definitely the problem, and to a certain extent, it's the security testings on 2 separate servers that's going to block up whatever kind of runs that you would opportunely make. But then you have ELP on the board as well, so there's not too many opportunities to gain money from running like Gabe usually does.
And this is where I question the Grail RP, because as you said, the first problem with it is consistency. The second thing is you draw ice and you don't want to play it. Like, that's a frustrating feeling to have for an opponent, or for being a corporation. But he's clearly going for a scoring play here. I wonder if he drew into a Nisei.
I hope he does. That's pretty much the only thing that's going to kind of help him out here. I mean, any agenda at this point will help, but I agree. It's something that's kind of unique to any kind of deck that runs the Grail suite. It's you have it in hand, and you want to have some ice to put out there and kind of just be able to tax the runner, but then you also need to keep some stuff in hand and start.
And what?
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. I want to comment on what a great play Hollis just had. He had one. We had Gabe doing a dirty laundry with 1 credit remaining.
Oh wow!
And then Hollis actually gambles 1 because he expects him to gamble 0. That's a 50-50 at that point. You could have just spent the 1 if you thought you were trying to be cheeky.
Right.
But it's kind of funny that he ended up not doing that. Obviously, most of the time you would not. However, it was a smart play economically by Hollis to do that.
I think that was definitely the right move. I mean, he definitely has the money to kind of maybe spend the 1, but that's putting yourself in the opposite player's shoes, whether it's the runner or the corp. He's thinking, hey, he's trying to make he's desperate. He's trying to make a dirty laundry run to get some money going, and if he doesn't play the 1, then he's obviously banking as many credits as he can, and it's probably the frame of mind that most people would have in that situation. But it's really tough.
It is. And you have, like we said, we have ELP. He's forcing him to use the run events to actually do things. This is interesting that he does it like this as well.
Double stacking on archives?
Yeah, I think actually he changed it just now to that open remote. I'm not quite sure, though.
But he does look like he's taking a run again. Man, Caprice doing work. Just, man. And... yeah, he bets 1 again.
And it's a net gain for Hollis because he's spending, even if he's spending 2, we have Gabe spending 2 just to get through the pup.
Right.
Much less 1, which in that case he did only do 1.
Yeah. I think this is the key example of like where betting is extremely influenced by the play at hand, and luckily Hollis is up. He's able to get out of Nisei with a counter on it as well. You should put the counter on it, and things are rolling. Hey, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not complete darkness.
Yeah, if I'm Hollis, I'm feeling really good. We have no hands or no cards in the hand of the runner, and you've got a full hand. You've got pretty much all the tools.
Yeah.
At this point, he's just looking to get an R&D run, a single run. And we know that he's got there's not many cards in the deck you can steal for free.
Yeah, the deck is still pretty thick too. You gotta consider the density of this RP deck that you're running against as well.
And by the time you're done, you only have $2, so it's not like you could steal an NAPD.
Absolutely. That's another huge thing about running against RP is that you have to have that money at the end of the day. Money, just huge economy is a really big factor against playing against it. But man, yeah, Hollis looks like he's taking the advantage here. He knows how poor Pacer is, and he's chucking him out as fast as he can with some sort of economic advantage to hold over his head.
Wow, and he makes a really big play here. He's got install advance down on the table. This is pretty much showing Pacer that this could be the game here.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he can get it.
Yeah. So mental health clinic is up and running, right? And then at this point, it's pretty safe on the field too, because he's barely making runs with the money that he's getting as it is. He's not going to go trash it, right? Like, that's a guaranteed 1 credit every turn.
There you go. He swings out the agenda.
Yep.
And the game is tied at chapter 20. He's got 5 and 5.
So this is that point that we were talking about earlier, where just having that 1 Nisei counter is scary, and having 2 is definitely, is tremendous. But this is a point where that 1 Nisei counter really, really matters. He's got 5 points on the board. He's got that counter and the run whenever he wants to. He's got Pacer sort of in a barrel here with econ-wise, but he seems to be catching up a little bit. But what really seals the deal is that EOP. He's not going to get it off the board without having to steal an agenda, which is already hard enough as it is. And, by the way, it doesn't matter at this point, because the next agenda he steals, he wins anyway.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of things doing a lot of work. We know he most likely has 2 Grail cards in his hand. So we're going to have a 5. It's going to cost 5 to get through into R&D or archives.
It's rough. It's so rough.
It's rough. Mm-hmm. You might have a Gordian Blade, but it's hard to fight a wizard.
Yeah. Jeez, this is, and we still don't even know. Like, he's got that extra security over here on the remote that could be an Ash, could be another Caprice. Even if it is another Caprice, that means the game-winning point. That's all that matters.
Yeah, if that's an Ash, it's pretty much game.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if he can res the ice in front of it as well, if he decides to run there anyway.
Well, because you have the Nisei token.
Absolutely.
Right. So because it's going to cost you a minimum of 2 clicks, 3 if you're not using run events to get in there in the first place. So
yes, even if he loses the Ash Trace, he can just end the run right after anyway, right?
Right.
If
I'm Pacer here, I'm going to duck into the pup, take 2 cards out of my hand.
Oh yeah.
And then try to make it over there. But once again, if you're Hollis, you look at the board. There's yet to be a barrier breaker.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. I mean, he's gone this entire game, but there's no. I mean, he hasn't run into a barrier yet. I mean, a Lancelot would be, or not a Lancelot, a Galahad would be tremendous. Even
that's what I'm saying.
Even a Baco.
Sure. Anything. Paper wall.
Yeah. So here's kind of an interesting play. Account siphon into the Caprice. Man, every time I've played against RP with the Caprice res on HQ, and you have that account siphon in hand, it's almost like, why try, right? It's a really risky move.
Yeah. With ELP, it's really hard to just run, just to try to break it, because you're like, okay, I spend 2 clicks, I might not even crack the Caprice.
Yeah.
So that gets really frustrating, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think RP has something that's very unique in that it's a mental game. Personal evolution is a mental game in itself, where you're trying to get them to kind of consider a lot of things that maybe they wouldn't need to be worried about. But replicating perfection is something that just really throws in that aspect and nails it in. It's that Nisei counter. It's the Caprice on the other remotes and in the other servers as well. It's a mental thing. It's once that counter is scored, once there's an upgrade installed on whatever server, I've seen runners literally give up. They lose the hope in their eyes when they're like, oh, there's that Nisei counter scored. Oh man, he just put a Caprice on whatever server. That's, I'm just not going to run there. And that's you can't be afraid of it.
And this is truly the evolution of Netrunner. I mean, we have cards like Nisei Mark II and RP, both cards that 8 months ago no one even wanted to touch.
Oh yeah.
These were not cards that were played regularly. Now we have people saying that Nisei Mark II is one of the better agendas, obviously behind AstroScript in that regard, and RP being maybe the best identity in the entire game.
Right.
And it really gives you a lot of faith, saying that the guys over at Fantasy Flight Games are doing at least something right in their game design, that they can actually revive things of this nature.
Right. I think the game in general at this point, after Order and Chaos and everything, you're seeing a lot of different runners win store championships. You're seeing a lot of different corps out there doing really, really well. I don't think there's been a better time to play this game. It's just there's so much variety out there as compared to before. It was just Andy NBN or something like that. But now, you hear those complaints kind of wither in the darkness. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I think that if I'm Pacer here, I gotta maybe duck into R&D or something, because there's no way you're getting into that remote. There's just no way.
He's pretty much said, "Hey, come at me, bro. Like you you're not going to get in there, right? You got to waste a couple of clicks to go to Central first." See, that's the one thing that's going to get around it, though. Run event.
Yeah, but he's dirty laundering into...
There's the Galahad. I think he's going R&D. I would go R&D.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. Yeah, you got to duck in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
But that's it.
Oh, it looks like he's actually going to trash something here. That's interesting. Well, he's trashing Gordian Blade. What is that? What you would make?
He's letting him trash a program. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he trashed Gordian Blade to kind of maybe conserve credits and whatnot. But he's got Rex out as well, so it's.
I'm so confused. I thought if he would have clicked twice, couldn't he have ran and then or click 3? Oh, he would have to click 3 times. I'm trying to think of him being able to use Rex, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, it looks like he realizes the imminent end at hand, and he concedes. It's well played on both sides. Man, that's crazy. So we come to the end of an excellent game here. It looks like Hollis is on his way to the semifinals. He plays one more opponent, Kevin, at the next game. And I'd personally like to thank Jason for joining us from Corpdraw. Why don't you tell us where we can find all your stuff at?
Absolutely, you guys can check out Corpdraw. It's awesome little podcast that we have. We post podcasts once every 2 weeks. And we're just getting into the new stuff and into what we've seen post Store Champs. So we're very excited to do that. And also, we are sponsored by Broken Egg Games, fantastic makers of credits and tokens and such. So I want to give both those guys a shout out. I want to thank Ricky for letting me come on and have a hack at it.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on. And once again, we'd like to thank everybody who supported the videos thus far. We've really had a tremendous response to them, and we really appreciate everybody checking it out, subscribing to our channel, the Hunstville Cybergroup, and just knocking up those view counts and giving us any kind of comments on the comments on YouTube, Reddit, or Netrunner Geeks on Facebook or anywhere else where it's posted. Thank you a lot, guys.
Thanks.